And so on we go, waiting for big decisions from England today. At the time of going to press, these programmes are recorded in the Grey Lounge in the morning. Mm-hmm. A lot's going to happen this Monday,
Do you think so?
Which
we've sat here every Monday and said there's big decisions coming, and nothing's been made.
Well, on the back of what Germany did this weekend, and congratulations to all involved, we don't know yet if there are consequences of what has happened in the Bundesliga, but they got it on. They said they would. They did. I think we're edging towards a restart, although I would continue to question the merits of a restart, particularly now the domestic broadcasters have said we want half our money back. We want access to dressing rooms, the holy grail in TV. Why? I've never been a big fan. I don't understand what it is you get. That's the workplace of a professional footballer, manager, coach and stuff. Leave them alone. 2 minutes before we start to run a competition, who's the longest in the shower, because that's what happens. So I don't get that, but I think they're trying, Andy, although there are many stories from the weekend that I shall share with you in just a moment that will perhaps give us a steer. This morning, this is not going to help. Mail Online, this is a Premier League official, unnamed, anonymous. If you ask people in the street to play for £60,000 a week, they'd all say yes. Premier League stars who refuse to train over coronavirus fears should not be paid, says a club official. That's not going to go down.
You said he's anonymous. There's no surprise there.
That's not going to go down very well this morning in the negotiations with those who are concerned.
It's nonsense. Of course it is.
What?
That.
Well, absolutely.
Total nonsense.
I mean, Aaron Cresswell this weekend, why won't football listen to the players? He says he's got concerns about restarting and they're being ignored. Whilst others, Agbonlahor, one of your favourites from Aston Villa during his time there, he insists he's spoken to many who simply will refuse to go back. Nigel Pearson voicing his concerns. I'm going to rip through these because we've got a great guest to talk to. Nigel's major objection is that he says that people are closing their eyes to the threat, and just because I'm concerned and others at my club and beyond are, does not make us rebels. That's the point we made last week. Are you going to congratulate Celtic?
On what?
A 9th in a row title to be confirmed today, Monday.
I'll wait till it's confirmed before I offer
Scott
my
Brown believes
congratulations.
Rangers should accept a curtailed season that hands Celtic their 9th consecutive league title because, he says, the gap the gap between the two clubs was only going to widen.
Well, it's not the first time I've disagreed with anything Scott said. It won't be the last, I'm sure.
It does look as though Scotland are going to cancel their premiership.
Yeah, well, listen, if it happens and a decision is made, Rangers will accept it because there's no other option and move on.
From The Guardian here, a single failed COVID-19 test spells quarantine for Premier League squads. Not sure. I think all of those things are still under discussion.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't know. Oh, look at that. I'll show it to you and we'll place it and share it later.
What?
As I was trawling through my pictures last night, I found that.
Why number 23?
Number 23, because I was... here we are, there's the team. Coventry's FA Cup final winning team. Downs,
I can't believe you mentioned that.
Peake,
when
Bennett,
our guest, I'm
Ginn,
looking at our guest
Regis,
and he's chuckling
Howson,
away.
Hutchison, Keys.
Keys?
Tim Flowers.
What number are you?
23.
What's the significance?
Well, they asked me, did I have a particular number in mind? And I said, I really don't mind. They said, well, all the players we've seen that looks a lot like David Beckham, it's you. So do you mind 23? And
why did Beckham use it? No, seriously. This is a serious question. No, and I'll tell you why, because I have been watching...
Michael Jordan.
Correct.
Yeah.
MJ, Michael Jordan.
Here's a story that I leapt on because I agree. Teddy Sheringham, article at the weekend in the Mail. I didn't want us to win if I wasn't on the pitch. Absolutely. We've discussed this many times and I've said to you, if I'm sitting on a bench watching the boys play, I don't want them to win because I want to be on there next week.
I do.
No, I don't.
I do. What do you mean
no,
you don't? See,
I don't.
Well, that's why you weren't playing very often. Anywhere.
Unai Emery's been talking. Arsenal couldn't protect me. The truth is I felt alone. From what, Unai? Yourself? Good evening?
No, didn't do him a lot of good. That,
really?
No.
What could they... Oh,
no.
And Giorgio Chiellini has hailed Sergio Ramos' takedown of the Liverpool star Mohamed Salah in the 2018 Champions League final as a masterstroke. as the Italian praises Real Madrid's defenders' devilish wit.
No, listen, yes, he brought him down. But do you honestly believe he brought him to the floor to bust his shoulder?
I think he held on to him.
No.
And Chiellini goes on to say...
he dragged him to the ground to commit a foul and stop him moving. He didn't drag him to the floor saying, I'm going to bust your shoulder.
You played, I always bow to your knowledge, but I think he held on to him with a view to injuring him if he could, and the consequence was he did.
No, I think he wanted to rough him up and show him who was the boss.
Here's another one that we discussed at the time. UEFA admit that referee Denis Aitken, and this is you won't know him, failed in the performance of his duties during Barcelona's historic comeback win against PSG in 2017. PSG 4 up, Barca won it 6-0 with a host of ridiculous decisions, or decisions that should have been made and weren't by this character. But the thing that worried me about that was, there's too many of these now.
Yeah.
Too many of these coming out, Andy.
Yes.
Obredo last week saying I got it wrong
Chelsea, Barcelona. And it's funny, two of them, both are Barcelona.
Absolutely. League One looks like it'll end this week with Coventry and Rotherham promoted.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you, Andrew.
Back in the big time for you.
Yep. Strikers are most at risk of picking up COVID-19 on the football pitch because they spend up to 11 minutes in close proximity to an infected player, according to a study in Denmark. More issues could delay the start until June the 26th. Amongst them, Steve Bruce saying he needs 6 weeks to get his players
I don't
fit.
agree.
Why?
Well, I don't agree. He needs 6 weeks. You wouldn't get 6 weeks in the summer. After the players have been away, had a break, not trained, you wouldn't take 6 weeks to get them up and running and playing. So why do you need 6 weeks now when they've already got a certain level of fitness?
I wouldn't know. I'm not a...
I don't agree with Steve. I don't think you need...
Latest threat to the Premier League's project restart comes from some technicians at the two host broadcasters who are saying, well, it's all very well for them. They're all tested every day. What about us?
What about us?
We don't want to go there. I think they've got a very good point.
Fair point.
Players don't believe it's safe to return. That's Chelsea's Willian. Oh, by the way, as an aside, Sunday Times this weekend, bad timing, publishing the rich list. Really?
I know.
At a time like
shocking.
that?
Poor.
Seriously.
Poor. Who's top of it?
I don't care. No one remembers Ji-sung Park, but he was as important as Ronaldo, says Wayne Rooney in his column this weekend.
Wow. I remember him.
Yeah, he says you don't always need big players.
No, you know, you need it's a team.
Yeah.
Ronaldo needs others to do what he doesn't do.
Yeah. Points are scored, but players get forgotten. That's an article from the Times on the very same thing. How much do we care about them? But this one, Andy, out of Scotland, whilst clubs squabble and point score, Scotland's players are entitled to wonder why they've become so marginalised in the narrative of coronavirus. It's a very different game up there. About 90 Premiership players will be out of contract next month, with that number swelling to an estimated 500 over the next few months. It's a serious problem.
500? That's every player.
Doctors' Union attacks football's purchase of PPE. This was inevitable. Protective equipment. That was bound to happen. How the art of scanning is turning players' heads and separating the great from the merely good. This is from Sam Dean in the Telegraph. This is everything, and I'm going to come back to this later in the week. This is everything to do with the ability of a player to see a ball and an opponent all at the same time. Many of the things you've discussed all down the years that have just come onto the agenda now. Apparently that's what makes a good player. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, all those things that a player was taught, having a picture, knowing what everybody is.
Yes.
I think there was I don't know, our guest might tell us this, but I think it might have been Terry Venables at times when he was coaching, when he was doing a game, and he would shout, stop, and he'd go to your player and say, what's behind you?
No, he didn't.
No?
No, because it's only just been
brought onto you. I played with a couple of coaches who did, stop, what's on your left-hand side? And if you didn't know, you got a
Wayne Rooney, he's worried. Project Restart, he says, is not to take into account players' opinions. As out of France, PSG and Lyon must sort out neutral venues if they're to play on in the Champions League, says Alexandre Cheferin. Understandable.
I thought France have said categorically no sport till September.
So you've got to play outside the country. Alexander Lacazette. This is a problem for me. Not so much. Yeah, Arsenal say it's a private matter. No, it's not. It's a very public matter.
It is.
Idiot. Sorry.
If you post it, it's a public matter. I'm sorry.
This is what bothers me about the responsibility, Andy, that you're handing to players to keep themselves safe, protect themselves from each other and others about them as we think about restarting, because you can't trust them. The fool that went to Paris for a sex party recently, from a club that's very close to your heart, unnamed so far, this particular gentleman. Overnight from Chelsea.
Hudson-Odoi, arrested. Listen, there's always going to be, there's hundreds and thousands of footballers, Richard. Well, hundreds, let's say, Premier League footballers, and you're always going to get the odd one. That has to happen.
That's the odd 3 in 24 hours.
Three out of 500.
One carrying COVID-19 is too much.
Exactly.
You can't trust them. Uwe Rosler here, who of course was involved at the weekend. It's worked, he said, so far, but we are still on very thin ice.
Yeah, he's right.
Premier League are targeting an August 22nd finale, which means Brucey will get his 5 or 6 weeks.
An August finale? Why?
This was interesting in the Mail today. This was perhaps the anniversary I was looking for, Andy, a little earlier when we were discussing. Bobby Moore. There were cops with guns aimed at everybody, and it was scary, like a scene from a movie, says Alan Mullery, on the anniversary of Bobby Moore being arrested in 1970.
Yes.
I think there's only one man alive that knows what happened there, Jeff Powell, who was probably Bob's closest mate, a reporter on the Daily Mail, and he's never said.
Well done.
I hope he does before he dies to tell us what happened. Best headline of the day, balloonacy, referring back to Lacazette in the middle of that debate. It's dangerous, says Ava Cañera. Football doesn't listen to medics. She should know. Jose didn't her, and 3 years ago we had a major fallout, didn't we, as a result of those two. League One ready to end, as I mentioned. Lampard in talks with Willian and Giroud. Sorry, I've stated my case previously. My contract ends on June the 30th. I am not playing on for 4-6 weeks or anybody else because I've got a move in my back pocket that I'm going to conclude in August. Therefore, I'm gone.
Selfish.
Hamstring.
Selfish.
No, I'm looking after myself.
Yeah, he's selfish.
What's wrong with that? And the last one, which I wanted to mention, Angie Best, having another pop at George, to whom she was married for some time.
No.
Listen, Angie, the spotlight on you has gone off. Your time underneath the lights has come and gone.
Oh, that's a
it
shame.
will never turn off as far as George is concerned for many of us.
No.
So please be quiet, leave him alone and let him have some of the peace in death that he never got in life. Fellow was a genius.
A total genius.
Why are today, listen, I've thoroughly enjoyed watching a lot of the old football that's on screen. But a lot of today's players, Andy, a little bit sensitive about some of the games that I've been texting them. I noticed on ITV4 last night from the Euros, England-Scotland, so I texted John Collins and said, good game on, make sure you don't miss. I mean, obviously we can't see it here, but...
No, I would have missed it anyway.
Yeah, well, John said, never watched, but if memory serves me right, we gave you a decent game. I said, well, yeah, I just checked. 2-0, England, definitely. He didn't reply after that. They're very sensitive, aren't they?
Footballers are, having been one, I understand that. And, you know, especially if they've played in big games.
And lost them.
And lost to an underdog.
Well, you say underdog.
Yes.
I think they turned up. I think they turned up with an attitude, we've already won this.
Who's they?
1987.
Right.
I'd contacted a number of them recently when I noticed that game was on. Ray Clements ignored me.
Did he?
Glenn Hoddle came back with a really nasty swipe. Oh, I see you're a Coventry fan again. Glenn didn't play in that game.
Yeah, he did.
No, he didn't.
Oh, he didn't.
And Chris Hughton was more engaging. He actually said, listen, as I would have expected from Chris, good luck to you boys. You deserved it on the day. Thank you, Chris. You're very kind.
Very honest.
I think they've officially taken 1987 off of the record books.
Now, is he right? Did you turn up, as a matter of fact, thinking this is a done deal?
No, of course we didn't. But,
yes,
but
you did.
But the obvious thinking is that we were big favourites. You know, going into the game in good form. There probably weren't too many of the pundits that thought that Coventry could win. And I think the fact that we scored so early. Yeah. I think most people thought then, you know, momentum would take us on, knock Coventry back. But the problem was, it's regenerated them and rejuvenated them, and we came up against a Coventry team that were very much up for it on the day.
Yeah, a very good Coventry side, by the way. I can still run you through it, Chris, if you like, minute by minute.
No, save us, please.
Including the outrageous, and I had a go at him many years later, Neil Midgley, sadly, who we've lost, but a top guy and top referee, disallowing Cyril's goal, which would have really put us in the box seat for no good reason. I think he was bought.
You think so?
Yeah, I think Tottenham bought him.
Yeah.
There's no question
Every
about
chance. It still didn't do him any good, though.
Did Glenn play that day, Chris? I think not. Andy says he was there.
Listen, I've spoken to you on numerous occasions about this game, and I think we both accept that on the day Coventry deserve it, and I think as a club, we were fortunate to have had success in 81 and 82, so we knew what it meant to win the FA Cup, and I think particularly being around Coventry and the ground the years after that, you knew what it meant to them, particularly the managers. You knew what it meant to them, and Big Cyril, who I knew really well. It was such an incredible day for them. Not just the fact that the Coventry won it, but I think in the manner that they won it. I think that's and that's what our game is about.
But I'm nearly feeling guilty now. But I'm not going to. I'm still going to revel in it and enjoy it. But what about a Premier League restart, Chris? What are your thoughts?
I think probably the same as most. I would have chopped and changed, so many times, and of course it's all about things changing here, and the lockdown, and allowing that little bit more freedom as such. But I do think it will go ahead, and I was probably in the thinking that whatever it takes, we have got to complete this league. Whether that interrupted next season or so, that we have to finish this league. My thinking now is very much that that there has to be an end date. That if I'm looking at what's going on abroad, you mentioned up in Scotland and possibly what might happen with the Premier League up in Scotland, perhaps today. I think there has to be an end date. I think it will resume. No doubt. I think they would have enjoyed what they saw in Germany over the last couple of days. Maybe not so much about the performance, but I think in the manner in which the game went ahead, and I think they would have been buoyed by that. I think it will go ahead. I think there will be players that perhaps won't want to play, or are certainly worried, health issues, family, and so. But you're looking at a German league where the players were prepared to play. They acted accordingly. I think in perhaps every aspect of the game, even as regards celebrating. So I do think, and I do think it has to have an end date.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I think that I'm not one for dragging this season into August, late August. I think for us as a football people, it's more important we get the start of next season as close to August, middle of August as we can, for me, rather than drag this one through the summer, carry on, keep putting it off. I think if we can't start and finish, for me, if I can't finish this season by the end of July, right, I would seriously just go forget it.
I have to say, I mean, my thoughts on what we saw at the weekend, I said, I mean, very well done, everybody. But for me, football is a sport, there's a requirement of an audience, a crowd. It was too much like a training session for me. I
actually enjoyed it, me.
I know you did, but for me it was anemic. And with us now talking about finding a vaccine out of Oxford by September, I just think as the weeks pass, we're getting nearer to sorting the problem completely, and maybe to give ourselves a little bit of time to get there. I didn't enjoy it. I understand why broadcasters want it back. Of course, I work for one, but I was numb.
Well, let me tell you, I had the best. I don't know about you, Chris, but I had the best weekend I've had in 9 weeks. There you go, because I could sit down and watch proper football. I know it was not what we're used to, but it was a proper football match. It was competitive. I thought the guys were committed. They all looked happy to be there. I thought all the things there that you maybe were worrying about happens. Yes, I accept there was a huge thing missing from it, but I was just happy, Chris, to see the game back.
Chris, I don't know. Chris, two things. What about the Barmy footballers and the lads that have concerns in that respect? And I know you talked to Glenn Murray. He went public last week and said, all too soon, and I'm concerned. What are your thoughts on both?
Absolutely, and I think every individual, and remember, we're talking about players because they're in the public eye, but what about the physios at the club? What about the coaches at the club? And so I think that's understandable. I think anybody that's in that position that's nervous, or I think anybody that's in that position that categorically says, no, I won't risk it. I won't play. I think all of that is understandable. Mm-hmm. Now, I presume what happened in Germany is it got to the stage where a lot of them fears were allayed by the conduct of the club and the way they went about the procedures at the club. So that's the only thing that I can think of. And I would imagine, because we are at the stage now where we are not training properly yet, there isn't that type of conduct. I think by the time we get to the stage where aspects of training are introduced in 5s, then in 10s, and then almost full training, I generally think that the players will feel more assured and more comfortable with it. And I presume that's what happened in Germany. As regards the game itself, I'm like you, Andy. I thoroughly enjoyed watching the game, but I know it was whatever 70%. 70% of what you would deem to be, a normal game. The way my summary was, some have said it was like a pre-season game. Well, it wasn't like a pre-season game, because a pre-season game you get supporters there. This was like a behind closed doors, exactly what it was. Game at your stadium. The type that we would play. Maybe it's an international week where you play a team at your stadium where you can hear the comments. And it was interesting that over the 2 days, certainly I think in the beIN game yesterday, because of the stadium, you could actually hear the players more. So the interesting fact will be when this is here, we know the language, we know the players, what that will actually add to those watching the game itself.
You see, I've always had my own view on that as well, Chris. I think you watch a football match of that intensity, you expect people to be using the odd expletive here and there. You watch ITV's entertainment channels from 3 o'clock any afternoon, repeats particularly, and you can hear it interspersed across so many different shows as though it doesn't matter, but we all get upset about it on a sports channel. Well, where are you going to hear that kind of language? On a sports channel, surely.
At a football match. Yes, of all places. How are you coping, Chris, yourself with lockdown? How's it going?
No, I've been okay. I think probably for a couple of reasons. One, because I've been out the game for a while, I've got used to structure. I've got used to sort of structuring my days. I keep as busy as possible. Of course, the only thing I don't have that I did have before we went through the situation was I was able to go to plenty of games and watch a lot of games. But I've got used to that structure. But it's a mindset, and I think it's about being fortunate to be where we are at the moment, where we've not been affected by it, where of course we know that there are thousands and thousands of people that have been affected. We are able to go out, we are able to go into the garden, and so I think it's a mindset, and it has to be a mindset. But I've got used to that type of structure. So I've not found it too bad, and I find ways to keep myself entertained.
I've got an idea for you this afternoon. Watch the '87 Cup final. It was a really good game.
I thought we'd left that behind.
Well, for some reason, on my laptop, I've tried to Google it, and it's linked from there.
Oh, I'll tell you another one, Chris. Seeing as we're back on the subject, who didn't come back to me, Clive Allen.
Oh, there's a surprise.
Who had the season of his career, and after the worst part about that game was I had to sit with Tottenham fans, because I was working at Breakfast TV at the time, and I went on Gloria Hunniford's Cup final show, and they gave me 2 tickets. That was the deal. But they gave me 2 tickets at the wrong end.
Oh dear.
So I sat with Tottenham fans. Anyway, enough of that. Thank you very much, Chris, for talking to us. Great to see you. I hope that you're, as indeed I hope in general, the game is back with us soon. But you particularly, do you think it'll be long before you find your way back in?
Well, I hope not. I mean, I'd had some opportunities, of course, before and during this season, which I turned down, waiting for that right one. I think I'm more open now to different ventures and even the possibility of maybe managing abroad, which is something that perhaps initially when I was out of work wasn't high on my agenda, but I'm looking for that challenge, and if that's wherever that challenge is, really I want to get back at the highest level that I can and the highest level possible. But I am open to offers from abroad. There have been some inquiries, and hopefully back not too long. I miss the game, as we all do.
We miss you, Chris, and
we're having to go.
If I could just say, there are no right ones anymore. Fergie used to say, find a good chairman. There aren't too many of those.
No, and the only thing I would say is don't leave it too long.
No, get yourself back in,
Get
Chris.
back in, you know that.
And if you're not, of course, when we get back to normal, invitation here is always open.
Yes.
Thank you for talking to us, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers, chaps.
Proper guy.
I'll see you.
Yes. Good lad, great lad.
Yeah, happily, that'll never go away.
Not for you, it's there, isn't it?
Tomorrow we will be in the company of a Premier League football manager. We tend to be on Tuesdays. I'm very much looking forward to that. We have a League One manager lined up.
Yes, that'll be an interesting.
Wednesday. By then we'll know probably what's happening.
Yep.
And obviously they will know much more about what's happening in the Premier League as well. Thank you for your company. In the meantime, as we always say at this stage,
Stay safe, everyone.
and we will see you tomorrow.